Howdy, folks. Hulkrix here. Welcome to episode 9 from Thoughts from the Inner Sphere. And today we're going to delve into the Griffin 55-ton mech. Has a few problems. Not a bad mech per se. It does see action in my forces I play with some slight variants or changes, and we'll get into that in a little bit. Now, the 55-ton Griffin is a 585 mover. So you can check off one box. Got jump jets. That's good. Carries around 12 heat sinks. 152 points of armor, which is not bad. Which is 9.5 tons. Now, which is just like the Shadowhawk, and I think the Wolverine too is the same way. Carries 152. Let me check. Yep. And then we get into the big problem with this thing. It has a PPC, does 10 points damage with that thing, which is nice. Shoots out the 18. Then it has an LRM 10 rack, which goes out to 21. But that's it. That's all it has. So the way I look at this thing, it doesn't get hot. The way I look at it in some ways is that, with that LRM and the PPC, when it fires off, yeah, you're going to go up some, and depending on your heat modifiers. But the next turn, you're going to have to decide, are you going to shoot that PPC and cool off, or fire the LRM? Which one do you want? And that's one of the drawbacks with the Griffin, is that it can get hot pretty quickly. But the way I use my Griffins is more or less I put them in the role of scout leader. If you get a heavy scout lance, put the a Griffin, and it does the same role as the Shadowhawk or the Wolverine. It's not really a mech that I like to brawl with. It's more of a support mech. It's in the role of helping out the scouting role, because with those jump jets, you can get to different locations fairly quickly and get in, get out. If some scouts come in to doing anti-scouting role, a Griffin can get in there and attract some attention because, ooh, here's the big guy. But the problem with the Griffin is that when you get somebody in their face, you have a lot of modifiers. You're not able to use that LRM to somebody that's like right next to you. You're going to have a lot of negatives to hit with that PPC when somebody's right next to you because of the range. So it's more or less you're going to be going out there and say, right, here comes somebody, I'll take a couple shots. And that is it. You get 1 or 2 shots with this thing. And if the hit modifiers are pretty bad, you're doing a lot of nothing. And quite a few times it's like, okay, I need 11 or 12. I'm only going to fire that PPC, and I don't have to worry about heat usually, because I don't want to. Usually if I'm jumping, I'm not firing the PPC unless that's all I have, and then it's like, oh, it's just energy, I'm just going to shoot it off. I never fire the LRMs if I have a really high modifier like 11 or 12, because we always play campaigns, and that ammo is something that you don't want to use up really quickly. All right. Now, one of the variants that takes care of some of those problems with this mech is I think it's the 1S, and it replaces the PPC with a large laser and the LRM 10 with an LRM 5 rack, and gives it 2 more medium lasers for enclosed support, and dumps 4 heat sinks, 4 tons into heat sinks. So it now has 16 heat sinks, and you're going to do 8, 10. So 10, if you jump, you might do 15 heat. This thing doesn't heat up, all right? Or if you decide to not fire the large laser to somebody that's really close, it never heats up. So if we look at it, what would I do different with this thing? And it's one of those things where if you try to stay within the existing line of having an LRM and a high energy weapon, I would still take this model and go with the 1S version, the variant, it's from Steiner, and maybe knock off one more ton of one heat sink, so you're down to 15 heat sinks, and then add one more medium laser. All right, and or yeah, I've done this before too. Is take 2 heat sinks off, drop it down to 14, add 3 medium lasers. All right, so now you have a large laser, an LRM-5, 4 medium lasers, and 14 heat sinks. All right, and what this does is, well, I guess you're almost like a Shadowhawk in a way, but it gives us a better, what I like to use mine in the role of anti-scouting. It makes it a better anti-scout medium mech. So it's a scout lance leader. So get in there, it can hit a larger target with that large laser and the LRM's at range, and if you get somebody gets in close, you can fire those medium lasers and do the Lord's work. But when you have the standard version, which is the 1N, the way I always use it is I'm going around the periphery. All right, I'm going from one cover to cover to cover. If I see a mech, you're basically just sniping, and you're just trying to do damage over time. You're kind of drawing out the conflict while you're waiting for either a follow-on force to come in, or you're trying to mitigate as much damage to you as possible. All right, that's the way I look at it. And then the 1S can move into it, which is the 1S is my preferred one actually. That I always like using is you go in there and you're able to, when something gets close, you can fire the 2 medium lasers and that large laser. All right, that's 14. You got 16 heat sinks, and if you run, you're not going to heat up. All right, so you're running pretty cool with this mech, and you can get in there. And I always try to. It's like if you got a heavy mech or a slower mech, that's a 4-6 mover, and you're with a scout lance, you're trying to get around in behind a lot of these guys, or spotting for your follow-on forces, your support mechs like say archers, longbows, bombardiers, any type of mech like that has long-range firepower. And while you're doing that, you can turn around and lay in, doing 5 points here, 8 points there, and eventually, if you're all picking on the same mech, you will wear that thing down. And if the support mechs are hitting it, pretty soon there's just a pile of rubble right there where there used to be a mech, and it's a pile of junk. So overall, the Griffin isn't a bad one. I'm a big fan of the the standard and the variant. I always go with the 1S. If you're just not going to convert anything, go with the 1S. You'll be happier with it, all right? And if you decide to change it, customize it, all right, I go with the one where it has the medium lasers, drop down some heat sinks still, and put on 2 medium lasers. So you got 4 medium lasers, 14 heat sinks, and a large laser, and an LRM-5. All right, that lays down a lot of firepower and is really good in the anti-scouting role or supporting the attack in a getting in behind, spotting those other targets that may pop up. All right, as a scout. All right, I always look at the Griffin, the Shadowhawk, as a good scout mech in the heavy supporting role. All right. If you got any questions, this is Hulkrex, and we'll see you in the next one. Hulkrex out.